Please don't wake me from this.
What's going on, legends? LGG Alden here. Today we're starting episode 1 of our brand new Game Maker Studios tutorial series. The past video I uploaded about a week ago from today was a video explaining what each episode in this first series of this tutorial will be. So on the screen right now, I will bring up a video. You can click that and it will take you to that video if you're wondering what to expect for this series. But we're going to be starting episode 1 right now. This is going to be on player creation. Reminder, guys, I will be uploading an episode of this series every Tuesday. Do my best, guys, to explain everything as best as possible, sort of as if it was explaining it to somebody who's never used this software before. So pretty much beginner ways of explaining it, but at the same time, this tutorial series is for intermediate people, people who know a little bit about it and ways to expand upon it. Another thing to warn you guys about, this video will be kind of longer. Although we don't go over a lot of things and we don't cover too much, the only reason this video is a lot longer is because of the in-depth explanations I try to do for you guys and to try to let people understand it. I will actually put up something so that once the basis of code is done, you can skip explanations and go to the next thing so you don't have to waste your time doing it. So if you want to learn the explanations, watch the full video. If not, I will put annotations all over the video so you guys can skip around, jump around, and go to where you need. To start this off, guys, we're going to be creating a sprite. Now, to create a sprite, basically you just need to go to the tiny little folder on the side that says sprites and create sprite. Now, creating sprite, name it however you want, but a very good habit to get into is using a prefix SPR, which kind of stands for the word sprite, and then naming it whatever. So we're going to be creating the player, so you might as well just name it SPR_player. Now, sprites are basically images that you create or you can load into Game Maker, which are displayed in objects and things like that. So sprites are basically the basis to it all. What looks like, what things look like, it's just the design. So from there on, you're going to want to create a sprite. If you don't have one already created, you can just do edit sprite. It will open up this tiny screen over here. You want to click the little paper, brand new paper thing, and it will say create a new sprite. 32 by 32 is a good size. So if you want to make your own one outside of this editor, feel free to. I recommend making it 32 by 32 so it kind of matches up with everything that we do. So from there, click OK. You're going to want to open it up. In there, you're going to create the sprite however you want it. I'm going to make a basic circle, let's see, just to make this, we're going to make it around something like this so that it's just a pretty simple character. And to determine which way we're looking, we're going to do like a bit of an arrow. So however you want to go about this, it doesn't really matter. You can do it however. So just pretty much just to make it seem like, oh, so you know which side is the face of the character, which way it's pointing. The right side is the face though, guys. So if you're going to have something to indicate, whether it be eyes, anything, make sure that the right side is kind of how you want the player to be looking at initial creation of it. Once you've created yours, you can take as much time as you want, however you want to do it. Click the little check mark in the top corner. It will save it, confirm it, all that. And then from there, you want to click the check mark again, and you will have your character. Now, because we are going to be doing a system so that it looks at the mouse, you're going to want to center it. The origin is basically where the sprite's center point is, which is all based on a coordinate system such as X and Y and all that. You're going to want the X and Y to be in the center because you do want it to turn around and be able to go in a 360-degree motion of looking. So make sure that it does face to the right and that it is centered. Once you're done with that, click OK and you're good for the sprite. Next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to create an object. With the object for it, you're going to want to do the same thing on the objects folder and say create object. Once you create the object, it'll pop up another window. You're going to want to name that object with a prefix of obj. That's another good one to use. For objects, just use obj underscore and then name it the same thing as your sprite so that you kind of have it similar. I named mine player, so name it player. And you're going to want to set the sprite. Now, to set the sprite, you can basically just click on where it says no sprite, and it will bring up every single sprite that you have. So click SPR player, and now your player has a sprite, your object's player, which is the image that you just created. So that's how you create the object, and then we're going to get into some of the code. The way that all of this works is basically you have different events. Now, events are based on a lot of different things, such as creation is when the object is first created upon loading the game or anything, a new room, anything like that. You have different ones such as pressing the mouse, objects being destroyed, other different stuff, drawing, key presses, all stuff like that, collision with objects. the way they work is just each of them is a unique way that it tests it depending on what the thing is. So we're going to start off with a create event. A create event, like I said, is basically when the game is started or when the object is loaded for the first time, this will be ran. Now, we're not going to be using the drag and drop methods, which is pretty much what a lot of these are. Some of them we will eventually use. For now, we're going to stick with control, and you're going to want to go to the tab that says code. In there, you will see what looks like a little document. You're going to want to, not the one with the little green poi looking button, you're going to want the blank one, and you're going to drag it over to actions. It will open up a little code box. In here, you can type code. This software uses GML, Game Maker language. Now, if you don't know a lot about it, this is pretty much where you will learn. If you want to learn other ways, there are plenty of documents. You can even press F1 and it will open up an entire thing that shows you everything you need to know and teaches you sort of basic stuff, and it shows you how to execute each line of code. So what we're going to be doing in here is creating global variables. Now, global variables act as variables that can be taken from anywhere. Now, there's a difference. So if I was to use a variable, just the name, let's see, like if you named it OBJ. So OBJ is a variable. You can set it to however you want it, but OBJ can only be accessed within this item, or it can be called upon by another one. More of this stuff we'll get into later, but this is only solo and available within this code, this object. So to make it accessible everywhere, which is what we're going to use, because a lot of stuff we're going to be changing over time when we get a little more advanced, and this is one way that'll help in the beginning. Typing the word global will create a global variable. You'll know you typed it right when it's glowing yellow or whatever color you have your editor set to. By default, it is this color. You're going to want to press dot. So after that, it'll be global dot, and then this is where you actually name the variable. So some of the basic variables we'll be using is speed being one of them. Now, the only reason we're going to abbreviate it instead of typing the word speed, if I type the full word, you see it turns red. Now, red, the reason that it's red is because it is a predetermined variable that's already set up based upon every single object. So you don't want that. You want to have control over it. You want to have access to it. Speed will be automatically used if you set it to something. So you want it to be a full control variable, something that you own all access to and no other uses besides what you make it do. So global.speed, we'll set it to, you want to put equals. So you're setting it equal to something. Now for default, we'll just set it to 5. 5 will just be the speed that it goes, the speed that it moves, the pixels that it moves pretty much. So it'll look like it's moving that. And then the other things we might want to add is maybe a couple things like health, and we'll do HLTH. So another abbreviated one, because health is another thing that is predetermined and predefined. So set that equal to something like 10. We don't need that necessarily right now. And then we'll also do global.damage. We'll do DMG, and we can set that equal to maybe 2. So that should be fine. Right now, all we're really going to be using is speed, so you don't even have to worry about health, damage, anything, whatever else you want to do. These are things that we will be using later. So speed variable is all that matters for now. So once you're done with that, you can click the check mark. The next thing you want to add is a step event. Now within that step events basically act as something that runs every time that your room iterates. Now you can have different room speeds. You can have it 60, 30. By default, it is 30, which is a good speed. We're not going to change that. We're not going to mess with it. It's the amount of frames per second that a room and that the game has when it's in that room. So the step will run every time that a frame happens. So what we're going to do is create a new step event, not a begin or an end step event. So step events run no matter what every time throughout the entire time that this code or this object is within the room or within access. So from this, we're going to want to set up basically movement. Now, I'm going to be doing 2 movement system, guys. One that's WASD, so basic moving up, down, left, and right. Another one that is based off of W and S only, so moving forward and backwards. And all of this has to do with the way that the mouse moves. So we're going to start with the basic WASD, so a very simple one. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to have it so that this is like the smartest way we can probably create it is using scripts. Now, scripts, you'll see there's another tab over here that says scripts. We're going to create 2 scripts, one for WASD movement and one for WS movement. So pretty much this will allow you to decide which one you want to use. You can type in both. You can type in whichever one you prefer if you only want one, but depends on you. I will probably be using WS movement more often, but either way, either one is fine. And we can even make it so you can switch between them eventually. For now, we're just going to create both of them separately. So the way you want to do this is, so I'll be testing WASD movement first. So you want to do SCR, so this will stand for script. Now, we haven't created the script yet, but this is kind of like we're calling to it once we have it created. So you're going to name it scr underscore, and then you're going to want to do movement. So we're going to like classify it as a movement script, and then we're going to name it WASD. So pretty much, oh, this is the WASD movement. It will call to it, and you want to have parentheses. So this will call to it. Basically, what we're going to do from there is you need to create the script. So creating the script, you're going to want to do create script the same way you created a sprite and an object. With that, you're going to want to name the script. So whatever you just named it, which mine is scr underscore movement, and then it has, I spelled that wrong, whoops, movement underscore WASD. So now that will call to it. You don't need the parentheses there. You're good. What this will do is basically this is something that can be called by an object or by anywhere, and it will call to it and run this amount of code. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to test for movement. So we're going to test if key presses are being done. Now, I know that I said with actions and different events and stuff, you can actually add it so that it checks key press, but that is going to be a way more complex way than we need it, a little more excess. This will be the simplest way to do it and the most logical coded way. So what we're going to do is we're going to do if statements. Now, if statements, basically whatever's within the parentheses, it tests. If it tests it, if it's true, it will run what's below. So from here, what you want to do is you want to do if keyboard. So this is a predefined method thing, keyboard underscore check direct. Now, there's different ones, as you can see. There's check, direct, pressed, and released. Obviously, pressed means it's just being pressed. Released means you're letting go of the key. Direct is basically just, is it being held down? So is it being in motion, held down at the second? So you're going to want to check direct. So you can just click it to run it, or you can type the full thing, however you want to go about it. And you're going to want to do, so we're doing WASD. Now, ORD is what you need to put within that. And then you also need another parentheses, and within quotations, you're going to do the letter. So for this one, we'll do W. Capital W is what you need. Close this. Close another one, and you're going to close it a third time to make sure you close every parentheses. That's an important thing, is making sure you close off what you begin. So that's what's going to be run in the if statement. Then you need to have a curly brace, which will go right at the end, and then you're going to want to press enter and put another one down. So basically you're opening and closing with the same one. So everything within this curly brace will be ran if the key W is being pressed. So what we want to do is now, to explain this, I'll have like a little image on the screen right now while I'm talking about it. Computer screens work a little different than a normal grid, but everything is still a grid-based system. So X and Y is sort of a normal grid, which is still the same way. X is horizontal, Y is vertical. With that, the only difference is normally 0, 0 is in the center. Now for a monitor, because all monitors can be different sizes, different heights, different widths, all of that, so it has to be taken in consideration where 0, 0 is to be the same on every screen. 0, 0 will be the top left corner. So that is marks 0, 0, and the bottom right will be whatever size of your monitor, whether it be a 1080 monitor, that would be 1920 and 1080, different things, different sizes, whatever your monitor resolution is, that's pretty much what the size of the bottom right corner is. And then the top right would be, it would be a 0 for the Y, or for the Y it'd be a 0, and X it would be whatever your monitor width is, and then the same thing would be opposite for the bottom left. So basically, we need to work off of a system like that. So W is still would be moving up. So you want it to move up. Now, in order to move up, it's a little different than how you would work on a normal scale or a normal grid. To go up, you want the X and the Y. The X won't change at all. The Y is working up and down. So it's still a horizontal for Y. Now, with that, you want it to go up. Now, instead of going down to be negative, down, and you would want down, down is positive. Up is negative. So in order to change this, you would want to do Y, and then you would do minus equals. So minus equals is the same thing as saying Y equals Y minus something. So this is just a simpler way to abbreviate it. Y minus equals, and then you're going to want to do global.spd. So that's going to change the speed based on the Y. So the Y will move, okay, so the speed is 5. So every time that W is being pressed, it will continue to move the Y up whatever the speed is, so 5. And you're going to want to put a semicolon there. Semicolons are really important, guys. They don't matter too much in this. GameMaker doesn't force you to use semicolons, but if you're going to be using coding for a lot of other things, it's a good habit to get into. That's another thing I didn't think of, but yes. So now that we have that, the other things you're going to want to test for is 4 more. So you can copy paste this and you can just do 4 of them. So you want to have 4 of these. The other things you need to test for is key press S, A, and D. Now S is basically just going down. So down is a positive Y. Now A and D are a little bit different. A and D work on the horizontal, so they're X's. So pretty much A is moving to the left. Now the left is the negative. The left consider is negative, and the moving D would be right. So right is positive. So that's pretty much that. That will make your player move up, right, down, and left, and all that based off of key presses. So as you can see, we go back to this. You close out of that, you're good. That will run, and that will be fine. Now I'm going to show you guys how to create a room and stuff so we can test this, and then we will work on the WS mouse movement. So in order to test this, guys, you need to go to rooms, and you want to create a room. It's the same way you created every single else thing, just you're going on the rooms folder. Now, rooms have a lot to it. We're not going too complex into this, but you want to go to settings. Now, settings, you can name the room. A good abbreviation is RM. So RM, and then you can just name it test, whatever you want to name it, something. Now, you can make this screen size whatever. We're going to leave it at this. Eventually, we'll get into different views, making the player's screen move based on where your character is and all that. But we're not getting into that now. So basically, just change the settings. Now, you want to go to the Objects tab. The Objects tab is where you have the objects you've created. Now, if you go down here where it says OBJ player or whatever you named your player, you can click it and you can have a list of all your objects. There's only one now, but you can go and you can place them anywhere in the room. It has a grid system. You can turn off the grid if you want. You can change the grid. So by changing these numbers, you can change it to however you want. As you can see, it's a very tiny grid. Leave it at 32. That's why the character size is 32 by 32. So it kind of works pretty good with the grid. That's kind of the system we'll be working with, is a 32 by 32 scale system grid thing. Now, once you have that in, you're good. You can actually go up to here where there's a little green play button, and it will run. You can also press F5 to run it if you want it as a shortcut. Now, it will begin to load. You'll see it all running down there. It should go fairly quick. Now, you have your room. Now, your room, obviously, is just a bare gray area. Now, once you have it open, try doing WASD. As you can see, it'll move the player. You can even hold multiple and go diagonals, and you can see the player moves based on WASD. So that's what you wanted. That's how it works. We're going to go over how to do the WS mouse movement system, and then we'll work on a little bit of angle stuff. So that's good. That's what you should have so far. So now back to the player, you're going to want to change this. So we already have WASD, and that works fine. So we're going to name the other one WS. So WS is just going to symbolize the other one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script, and you're going to name it SCR, obviously the same as whatever that is. So just the same thing. So WS is what this one is. Now that'll work fine. So what we're going to test for is W and S being pressed. So you're going to want to do if, and then you're going to do keyboard. So the same code that you had to test for if W and S are being pressed, except you're obviously not doing A and D. So if it's being pressed, click that. Make sure you have ORD, and then you're also going to want to do W, and then you're going to do the same thing for S. So copy paste that. Now the code we're going to be entering into this is based off of where the mouse is. So you're going to want to move it towards the point of the mouse if it's W, and you're going to want to move it away if it's an S. Make sure that you change that. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do X. You're going to want to do move underscore towards point, and it's going to be the speed. So X, Y, and the speed. Now the way we're going to, this one's a little more complex than the other one. It'll be a little harder to work with, but this one works a little better almost for top-down games, especially because of angles. But WASD might be a whole different way of going about it, whatever you feel is comfortable, but this one is a little more complicated. So you're going to want to have it point to mouse underscore X. Now mouse X is basically wherever your mouse is in the game window. Also the same thing with mouse Y. So with that, and then the speed, we have global.speed. So as you can tell, we got that. That's what we need. We need it to move towards it. Now, for this one, we're going to do something different. As you can see, I just put the word else. Else means, now before it could run either statement, and this is why we could move diagonal in the game. So else means that if it's not the first one, it could be this one, so run this next. So that means it only can run either one of these. It can't run both. Where WASD, it could run both at the exact same time. So this one's moving towards the point. Now we want to copy paste this line of code, except the only difference is you want to do it, but you want to do negative speed. So you want to do, put a minus sign in front of global.speed, and that'll work fine. That'll take the opposite of speed, so it'll move it away from the mouse X and Y when you're pressing S. Now, one last thing that we need in this one is another else statement. So pretty much if it's not either of those ones, it's going to move underscore towards mouse. So it's going to move towards the point, except the speed's going to be 0. Now, the reason we want it to be 0 so that it doesn't move at all. You don't want the player to move at all. You don't want it to be walking around, because sometimes with this, it'll start to move towards the point and then it won't actually change if you don't have anything to stop it. So stopping it by changing its point to move to a speed of 0. So that'll work fine. That should be it for this code. You can click out of that, you'll be good, and then you can see that that works, and now we can go ahead and test it by running the exact same room if you changed this code. Thing that I noticed quickly, guys, that I messed up, I accidentally type check pressed. You don't want pressed, you want direct. That will mess it up if you accidentally put pressed as me. So I'm telling you guys, fix that right now and this will work. So we're going to run that test room right now. So press F5 or press the little play button again, and you'll see the player's still in there. Now what it'll do is it'll move towards the mouse. So pressing W will move it. As you can see, wherever my mouse is, that's where the player will move. Now if it gets over to me, I can press S and it'll move away from the mouse. So wherever the mouse is, that's where it's moving away from. So that works fine. That's how we want it to work. So now you have WASD and S and WS, however, whichever method you prefer. Go with it, use it for now. Eventually, like I said, we'll set up a system so you can switch between them. You can change whichever one you want and go between them both. So the next thing we want to do though, guys, is we need to make it so that the player actually looks towards the mouse. So the way we can do that is we can do image underscore angle. Now this is another predefined thing. So the image angle, so this is like the player's image angle, is equal to point underscore direction. Now the way you want to do this one is you want to do X, Y. So these are the players X and Y, and then you want to do mouse underscore X and mouse underscore Y. So this will fill in the 4 things required for it. And if you run it, no matter which method you use, doesn't matter if it's WS or WASD, this will have it point. As you can see, the arrow is pointing whichever way the mouse is. Now, this kind of works better for WS movement. As you can tell, it looks like as if it's looking towards the mouse, which that depends. Honestly, WASD, it still looks fine. Just you move all around, where this one, it points towards the mouse. So no matter what, WASD, you'll have the same output, just the movement is different. So whether you're using it or not, that's what it'll feel like. Same thing. That's how you know you got it good, and you should be good then. So guys, I believe that's it for this episode. That's all we needed to do for this. Basically, we got the player down, we have movement down, and we also worked on some global variables and scripts. We got a lot of things learned. Hopefully, you guys understood a lot of it. If there's any way I can explain it better, guys, comment below and tell me. If there's anything that went wrong, anything that didn't work, you got any errors, comment that below too. I will help you guys. I will do my best to fix every single issue and tell you how to work on it and get it right for you guys, so you guys can continue on with the series next Tuesday, which is when the next episode will be. So hopefully this did help you guys. If you guys are looking forward to more of this, like this below. Let me know that you guys enjoy it. If you're new to this channel, subscribe for more of these so you can get notified when a new episode comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to be a legend, and I'll see you guys next time.